nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
Tony Caravan live. Does anyone remember that?
Hey, you're Forbes and Harrington, ain't you? Ain't you the guys that was up in space?
Yeah, but we can still buy a couple of beers for 30 cents Earth money. Huh?
You bet your life, but your money's no good here. The drinks are in the house. I don't get to serve many celebrities. Now drink up, boys.
Thanks.
I don't even care that you cracked up the ship. And I'm a taxpayer.
Say, what's it like up there in outer space?
Well, it's like way out.
Yeah, it's like Way Out, man. For those who hadn't seen the title card, don't understand the window to the outdoors, I had put this up before. This is the eyes without a face. I referenced that in my post turning the video off thing yesterday. This light in the background is being charged by the Jackery. Okay. And of course, I'm also charging what appears to be like a watch from Apple, but is actually an earlier version that.
Now a few other local conditions. Pittsburgh, mostly cloudy 50. Indiana, cloudy 46. Latrobe, cloudy 52. State College, cloudy 46. Clearfield, cloudy 45. Du Bois, cloudy 40.
Anyway, as you know, I'm in the mid-Atlantic state, so all of those surround. That's a NOAA radio that's chargeable by solar, by the way, or you can crank it, and it will also charge a device like a cell phone or a watch. But I'll explain this later. I'm charging this because the battery, I had it sitting on a shelf for a long time. But right now, with this thing that can be charged with a solar panel or plugged into your house or car, I'm charging both. I'm running this light in the background, and I'm charging with a USB that. And the light is just plugged in with the plug. Just to explain things. I'm all for technology, and I want to keep...
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
And another thing is, people are obviously familiar with this. I've also used one of these on this, because this is like the low model. This is the, pardon me, the $199 model. You can buy like a $500 version or $1,000 version that has way more watts. But this is like a 200 watter. But it's still the most lights and cell phones and the type of things that you're probably going to plug in or charge, like laptops and things of that nature, don't use many watts at all. You know, we're in this era of all this, excuse me. Louis Armstrong's handkerchief. I don't normally get, hoarse that early, but it's 5:13 a.m. in the morning. I woke up a little bit after 3, and it took me about an hour to get prepared. And what I was trying to say is most devices that in a power out situation, grid down, that you're going to need aren't super, uh, you know, energy hogs. So, you know, the idea is to get by. You know, this thing also has the proverbial flashlight SOS thing on it, and AM FM radio and all that kind of stuff. It's like $35. And the idea is that you just want to get through the situation. It has like a reading light, so stationary things, so you don't have to like hold or position a flashlight. You just set it on your desk and just be reading while you're listening to the NOAA radio to find out, you know, if there's a tornado or hurricane, or, you know, if when the power lines are going to be fixed. I put a little bit of nutmeg into something called Dr. Thunder diet, calorie-free cola, that I believe I believe it has caffeine in it. Otherwise, it's the placebo effect. Yeah, caffeine. I was smart enough to bring a few extra ice cubes out this time too, so I don't have to take a break and run in. Though I am going to play a little bit of my song, Virtual Cage, and I expect to get some kind of copyright hit on that. But since it's my song, they can't possibly give me a strike. But as I mentioned yesterday let's recap. First of all, this is Tony Caravan Live. I've been running around like a chicken with his head cut off, which is a horrible sight. But I did an 1.5-hour video yesterday and had some problems getting it together, organized early on. And so, by the way, that's his mask says you don't know what you don't know. I just got the notification from YouTube now that you're live. Of course, that just means I just want to double check my title card. And it was like kind of mayhem in the morning, getting everything set up. And so I went through with the show. You know, there was some chat going on, but I started to watch it back and I realized that it was just, it just wasn't up to par. So I deleted it. And I still had this, like I mentioned in my 1-minute video, that's also on if you're watching this on Locals, but it's also on YouTube. I put it on YouTube. That I felt like, and I feel like, that I'm walking on eggshells right now. And, you know, it shouldn't be that way. You know, really, it shouldn't be that way for, for somebody just trying to do a morning show and have some fun, talk about current events, talk about life, experience. Because my thing is mainly like my most recent book, which is there. You could see it right now. Codex underneath the Great Solar Stuff thing. People think I'm doing like some big, like this is some QVC type of show or something. Don't get the wrong impression. I don't make any money. Nobody buys this stuff. These things I'm demonstrating for you is for your own good. I bought them, tested them, and I'm just saying, hey, man, the power goes out. If you were in Texas last year, you wish you would have had some of this stuff. And it's not that expensive. Just get it. And as far as me pointing to my book, Codex and stuff like that, that's the subject is based on my latest, a lot of the subjects based on my latest book and many of my earlier books as well. But right now my primary focus is on consciousness, our 5 senses, and our creativity, perception, how we perceive the world in the first person and how we interact. And the title of this show really is a virtual cage. And I'm going to take a look at this. This is I'm looking now at my description. And I'm sorry for breathing heavy because like I said, at the last minute, I forgot something. I had to rush in the other room and rushing back, and I don't know. It's crazy. So it's Tony Caravan Live, April 14th, middle of April, here in the former United States. I'm in the mid-Atlantic states, as you heard from the NOAA radio. And it's the year 2021. Now, and I always press that point a lot with people. It's the year 2021. It doesn't mean anything if you were born in the year 2000 or 1998. But for people who were born in 1990, 1980 or before, there's a certain disappointment about it being the year 2021, and we're basically living no different than we were in the 90s. And I know there might be some people out there to argue that point, but we'll get to that. But anyway, so the title is "The Virtual Cage Becomes You," and obviously that's not to be taken literally. Like it or not, accept it or not, you live in a virtual cage. This will be explained in this broadcast. And then the quote from the old Outer Limits that I started the show out with: we control the vertical, we control the horizontal. And that's relating to our Lord and Masters on YouTube and the social media gods. Portions of the title card were culled from yesterday's deleted broadcast. Best of luck and success. And so
we'll have to remodulate our signal to match the network's interlink frequency.
And I've already taken care of that, so you have nothing to worry about whatsoever. And remember, my YouTube channel is
Rock Flux Live.
Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Well, let's hear it.
Insert your station call letters here.
Here we go. I gotta go.
You're clear to go. Hey, don't think this sounds really cool.
Let's roll.
Go.
And we are going to have a little bit of music. Here's a little bit from my song Virtual Cage. And I don't want to talk over the thing, but point of the matter is I do all the music on these. I record them, each track live, no back edits or remixing. I dropped my overpriced smartphone and it shattered. Surprisingly, my first thought was that I was free. Free from the virtual cage that tethers us, but tears us apart. Free from the notifications, replies, and requests. Free from the need to respond. Free from the falsities and deceptions of those with warped agendas. I was no longer a slave to tech or to any person, place, or thing. Yeah. I canceled my cellular service and got a voice over IP phone. Okay, that's enough for now. It's gonna be like that guy who does that show. What's great about this song? But I'm a beat poet for those of you who don't know that. So I have songs like, I have about 50 songs that I've written. And, and like I say, I do it the same way. The reason I like YouTube, but I don't know why YouTube doesn't like me, because I'm the truth, straight ahead, right at you. Right. And I'm not political. So I guess the truths that I speak, because I don't watch television, I point up there because I used to have a TV on the ceiling, for when I was into this whole thing, which I've shown in previous shows. My control center, the broadcast center. But I don't watch network news, and I never really did, and I just got rid of it. I finally cut the cord, last October, November. And the thing about it is, when I don't miss it, that's for sure. But even when I had it, I was never a news junkie. And I never, that just didn't appeal to me. And the type of broadcaster on network, I just didn't care about. Never watched a movie on TV or anything like that because I couldn't stand the commercial breaks. And I did watch a couple shows, like in the older days, I was we're talking back in the 90s, I watched, there's Mulder's poster from his basement office from the X-Files. So I'd watch a show like that, or I'd watch Fringe, if you remember that show. And most recently, shows like Blacklist, I watched. So that gives you, just naming those 3 shows. If you know those 3 shows, then you've got an idea, particularly the first 2. So that's where my head's at, and that's the type of stuff I watch on occasionally. Month by month, I will get a subscription to one of the pay services, but I don't I'm very cautious. In other words, in fact, I'm glad now that you can get Netflix for 1 month and then cancel it. Same with Apple TV and Hulu, all of those places. I just had a Starz subscription because I watched that series, American Gods, but I just canceled it yesterday because it's, as far as I know, American Gods is done for this season. But, that show, or that song, showed one of these older iPhones, and it could be any smartphone. As we look into infinity here, even with my face, the magic mirror broken. And it's true, I did actually break. I didn't break one of these. I actually broke, I have to take it out of my case because I have one of those wallet, type of things. You could put your cards, it's like an ad for one of these things. Your wallet, some cash, and your phone in there, and carry it with you. These are cool things. Yeah. Gave one out as a gift too to somebody. They appreciate it. They use it all the time. But you can still you could actually take a picture through, in the back of it, I don't know if you can see that. See, there's a hole for the camera. But, this is one of the more recent slim versions. But I don't, as I said before, I don't subscribe to, I'm not going to say as I said before anymore. Just, I think I tried to preface this in another video. I repeat things for the sake of, I don't have a very large audience. I'm on different platforms, and I get people sometimes, and they'll even comment or come into the chat and say, hey, I saw you in my recommended list. They'll tune in for 20 minutes or so, and then they'll go somewhere else. That's perfectly cool with me. So I'm constantly, if I'm doing something that's, maybe confusing, out of context, unfortunately, if you're watching these things on a regular basis, you're going to find repetitive material here. But anyway, so I canceled as I say in that song, you can see my other computer here. This is the one. This is an older G5 that's being reflected. that's over that direction, that I keep the sound effects on. So whenever you hear any of this kind of stuff.
This is Metropolitan Police speaking. Metropolitan Police speaking. All persons are warned to stay off the streets. All persons are warned to stay off the streets.
When you hear that, which is just really going on right now, basically. I canceled my cell phone service about at least 4 years ago, maybe something around that. And I got something called, this isn't, well, you can't see that, but it doesn't matter. I got something called Magic Jack. And at some point, I don't know, the other day this was showing up. There it is. And it's got a dialer and all that thing. But what it does is it's a Wi-Fi phone. And you pay $39.99. Like I say, I always criticize the $99. Just say $40, please. But you pay $40 a year, not a month. And you get this magic jack, they call it. It's this little, it's kind of like a thumb drive, and you put it in whatever your internet, box is, that you get from the service you subscribe to. And, and then there's an app you can get that you can put on your phone. So I don't know if this will be visible. It's hard with the lighting. Here, it looks sideways. See, there's a blue. This is the old phone app there, that green thing. But above it is my Magic Jack app. And for example, that Dr. Thunder that I'm drinking in the morning show mug, available on TonyCaravanLive.com. That, which costs 72 cents for a 2-liter bottle. But, I use this to make photographs, which is how I made this, originally created this graphic that ended up, this is partially what you saw as the title card. So I used the iPhone for that. This was another version of that I had made, which, as you can see, is pretty much what's behind me on the desk. But this isn't a show and tell thing. But for those who hadn't seen, I have been tormented by this. And that's heavy equipment that I often talk about and will probably get touched to today. My entire house was shaking. Look at the size of the man and the size of the machine. And they have machines out there. They refer to it as, in the industry, as heavy equipment. They don't call them trucks, or any of that stuff. That are like, yesterday they had 3 of those things out there. And one of them was literally the size of a house. I mean, I kid you not. I have nothing to gain from saying that, My entire house was shaking the day prior. I talked about it a little bit. For about 12 hours. They went till like 8 o'clock at night. And I lived in LA, so I went through earthquakes. And so imagine, when you get an earthquake out there, they only last it's a matter of seconds. And, I mean, you could count them in seconds. I mean, if it was a minute or so, and after that passes, depending on the magnitude, and most of the California earthquakes are small. But you'll see cracks, on the stucco. Buildings are stucco, so you'll see cracks on the stucco and whatnot. It's enough, those seconds or a minute or whatever is enough to cause structural damage in many cases. And pictures will come off the wall and stuff like that. Well, anyway.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
Yeah, that's what it was yesterday. Well, it was a California earthquake for 12 frickin' hours. Like, I was joking to somebody, but I wasn't really, because it wasn't really funny. I wasn't laughing. It wasn't funny, ha. I was like laying, it was towards the end of the day, getting towards like, 8 o'clock or so. And I was just like kind of laying back in bed watching TV because I go to bed early because I get up early to do these shows. So I was just watching something. When I say TV, I was watching YouTube, something on YouTube. Or be honest with you, I was watching Criminal Minds on Netflix. I was binge watching it, which I don't know. I like the blonde on the season 1. I don't know. They've got like 10 seasons or something. I never watched that on TV, but I have to admit, and this, some people might take offense to it, but what draws me into some of these shows is the girls as eye candy. And I think that's more commonplace than people admit, because they do parade these dolls around, and it's the same with the guy, with guys, and whatever your sexual preference is. It's part of the whole showbiz TV thing. It's something they don't talk about. That's why I get really annoyed when people try to like say, we're serious. I'm a serious actor. Hey, look, I've been in the entertainment business. I acted. I was in a film that got an Academy nomination, down in Australia, the Australian Academy. But I don't do that anymore. That was years ago. Now I managed talent and I produced. But all that aside, what keeps me interested in is, certain characters. And, I had this one will drive you batty, guy talking about X-Files, The Fringe, Blacklist, and some of these heavier shows. Of course, I was a Star Trek Next Generation and original series fan and stuff. But, I ended up binge watching the latest version of that Beauty and the Beast thing, because I thought that girl, the lead girl in there, well, actually even the her best friend, cop, who was the cop who ended up being the cop captain. I mean, I just thought they were hot, and so the stories were fine, but it was their interaction and their involvement in the stories that that made me want to binge watch that. Not a lot of people admit that kind of stuff, and if you're just tuning into this for the first time, yeah, that's Tony Caravan Live. It's not what this show's about. It's just an aside. I always start out the show just talking about stuff, and that stuff is usually just some personal, jibber jabber. And I'm also usually, stressing the point that, like that thing up there, everything is wrong and game over there, that I have all these t-shirts and all this stuff on my website. Nobody to date has bought a single item. You won't find people admitting that, except me. So there you go. I'm not selling anything. I mean, I'm selling it. It's there. Everything is wrong. But so anyway, what we're going to do is I'm doing a live. Like I say, this light back here is being powered by this power pack. This phone, which looks like an Apple iWatch or watch, whatever they call it now, but was actually one of the original mini iPods. But people were I'll explain it. These somebody came out with these bands. I'm charging that through the USB port right here. And see, the other thing, this is just like an AC adapter plugged into this. And there's like a car or boat adapter and all that stuff. And like I say, these are very fairly, excuse me. I do two things here. I want to explain something so you don't get grossed out. I do two things here. Rather than just go like this when I clear my throat, it's always good to cover your mouth when you're coughing or clearing your throat, obviously. I clear my throat with this. And then simultaneously, if you see me wiping, it's not like I'm doing some kind of something weird. I'm wiping the coffee, or in this case, a cola, off of my mustache, which is a rather big mustache. I'm back to the Tom Selleck mustache, type of thing, 70s thing. I met this one bartender girl. I'm here, and I told this story before. She used to like dig my mustache. It reminded her of like 70s or something. I don't know. I'm saying, well, you're right, honey. I had it since then. I shaved my mustache off once. Just for, I don't know, for no known reason. But
did you accidentally inject yourself with some kind of psychotropic agent?
And that must have been why. So Virtual Cage is one of my songs. And as I said, when I make a song, I'm not doing songs right now. And I'm currently not writing a book. I've written 10 books. I probably will write a book, start on a book this fall. And it will most likely be a flow of consciousness book, like the second half of this book back here, Codex. And that's what which inspired me to do these live kind of flow of consciousness shows. And what I'm getting at, and all this will tie together into the title card, into the title of this, and the description of this show. All this will make sense. I'll bring it all together. That's why these shows are long form, and they're an hour or two. And I know a lot of people just don't have that time. I was talking to my brother yesterday, and he's like, I try to listen to your stuff. I just, because he still has a business and stuff. And he goes, I just don't have the time to sit down for 2 hours or even listen for 2 hours. And I understand that, and so it's fine. But if you ever I said, well, if you ever have the time, check it out, But it is a long form thing. And these kinds of discussions sometimes, this is my creative outlet. I have a creative impulse. I believe everyone has creativity who is conscious. And I've gotten into this before, that I do believe that there are people that have minimal consciousness, and I call, I have a song called Robots here. We'll listen to just like a little bit of it. Might as well if you're going to get one copyright hit, might as well get a couple, right? It's one of my songs, though.
The soulless millions who wander aimlessly around the streets. Dressed as they should, believing what they've been told, doing what they think is right, acting like the others, obedient robots.
The soulless millions wandering the streets, doing what they think is right, acting like robots. And the song earlier was Virtual Cage, which referred to the idea that, and I was trying to say before when I brought that up, because I don't want to leave you hanging. That's why I say it's circular conversation. It's a flow of consciousness. Well, that other version of the smartphone, a couple weeks after I got it, I dropped it. And the glass they use just shattered. And, I didn't have any kind of, well, actually, it was still, it was like still, I swear it was within 90 days or something like that. Well, anyway, they play games with you, these companies, and they may have changed their ways now or whatever. But they made me pay because I bought that iPhone and it cost, I don't know, $300 or $400. I don't know. That was like when and I had to pay like 100 and what did I have to do? No, I had to put up the same amount of money, send the phone out, and they had to like charge my credit card, whatever it was, $400, I don't know what it was. And I had to wait, X amount of time for them to replace it. And instead of fixing it, they just send you a new phone. That's how that thing works too. But anyway, so the glass shattered completely. And on the title card, if you look in the real tiny corner, you'll see like a shattered phone, kind of a crappy graphic because I used this preview on an Apple computer because I don't have Photoshop on my main big Mac now because Adobe extorts money from you. Everything's the cloud. So you have to pay them like $50 a month to use their software package. And then once you cancel your subscription, you can't open anything with like an older version or other programs. Yeah, it's pretty sick. But on this computer over here that I point to, the one that, in the magic mirror there, you can see the bright white light. That's the one that's putting light on my face. I have Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, something called Freehand, Claris Homepage, a really good web design program from the 90s. That's what I was using in like 1995 or something when I used to build a lot of websites, sophisticated ones too. But I bought the box, I bought the box. I had the book, the box, the CD, the whole thing. So I don't have that computer, the one that's over here. All right. I don't have that one connected to the internet because if you do, they'll send down a little thing and like gum that software up. Yeah, they do that stuff too because they've done that in my kitchen, which is over this direction. I have a bar, which I haven't had like a little happy hour in a while. So I'm thinking today, depending on how it goes, I may take a walk up the street and get myself, some brewskis and listen to. I have an older computer in there, an old Mac Mini, and that one has a version of iTunes on it. I mean, this is apropos because this has to do with with what's going on now. The virtual cage becomes you. And you could use that word becomes in two different ways, but we'll talk about that too. But they won't let me, I say they, Apple, their algorithm, however they've set this up. Even though I purchased songs, through the Apple store over the years, because I've been in Apple. They used to call us Apple evangelists because if you see over here, it's hard to see a little bit, but there's this square. See that little thing there? I pointed this out before. That's the original Mac, we call a Mac Classic, but that's like the original Mac. It's not even a class, the first Mac. So I had a Mac back in 1985, right? And I was on the internet then too. And I was sending emails to Australia and to people around the country. Think about that. And I had the printer. It was a dot matrix printer, a 300 baud modem, you know, which if people who understand that, it's dial up, but it's about as slow a dial up as you could possibly imagine. But, you know, we were working on a film and we were sending pieces of scripts, me and the director, and it worked. You know, I was talking yesterday to someone, like I remember doing job work at the agency. I was a creative director at ad agency in the 90s and late 90s. And I could remember us, you know, you didn't do all just, we did TV ads, radio ads, we wrote copy, we did a lot of print ads. You know, advertising agencies don't just do ads. You know, you write copy, you do marketing, you consult your clients, you know, or your clients consult you. You know, you give them guidance, you put together campaigns, but you also handle their what we call collateral materials, their print materials, you know, product manuals and things like that. You do the whole 9 yards. You know, if you're launching a product or a service, you know, I remember we did a thing for a hospital that involved a TV commercial. It involved print materials, mailing things that went out. And we had to write the copy, you know, do all. I did a website one time for somebody we had to do that was involved in hand, you know, sign language, right? And I had to photograph a woman doing sign language as an intro, you know, called a splash screen to the site, and created a logo. And then they wanted, you know, pictures of people. So we had a photo session in our studios where we photographed all their sign language people. So, you know, if you're a full service advertising agency, you do everything. And for this one client, I remember I was talking to somebody yesterday, just reminiscing about something. I said, you know, back in the 90s with these older computers, I can remember we did a 200-page product catalog for some company out in Roswell, New Mexico, who I used to say there was alien technology, but without getting into the name of that company. Person was laughing at me when I was saying that, but I'm saying, no, I mean, think about it. But, you know, so we did that on these old computers 25 years ago, or almost 25 years ago. And these things today, you know, they, you know, tout them as like, oh, this is the greatest in the, you know, and it's like, they're cumbersome, you know, it's like, oh, everything's in dark mode. Okay, great. Dark mode. And I had an extension, a plugin, or whatever you called it in the 90s that was dark mode that was way better than this dark mode because it allowed you to also like alter fonts and like tweak it. So you drop down menus and different things. You can have like various degrees of transparency and all kinds of stuff. So people don't, you know, like I say, the people running these companies right now were born, all right, when I was already doing what they think they're doing well. Think about that statement. I was broadcasting live. I had a podcast, a weekly show on the internet before many of the people who are working on the GUI, it's called the graphic user interface, say for YouTube or over at Apple, right? Working on their podcast and, you know, all that stuff. Before they were born or when they were literally toddlers, okay? Before there was a glimmer of a concept of a thing called an iPod, let alone. I had the equivalent of a weekly podcast, just called it a webcast back then. Streaming media, we used to call it. In fact, we streamed on Real Audio, which doesn't even exist today. Imagine that. The format and the server software we used for audio and video, right? Doesn't even exist today. But a little, if there's some geek that sees this at some point, let me find this. So I just did it this morning for that. There's a program called Audio Light Converter Lite that still seems to work on my Mac. And I have the Audio Converter Lite. It's not even the Pro version. I may have paid $5 for it or something like that. I don't know. Years ago. But it seems to have updated. If you have an old Real Audio file, and that's like .ra, okay, as the suffix on it. You try playing that, you can't play it on anything, right? If you get this program, this Audio Converter Lite, if you change the suffix, the RA to .rm, and it doesn't list anywhere in this program that it does it. Someone just put it in there. Some cool, because must have been somebody from the old days, right? The old days being the 90s. It's just in there. It's just built into it. But you just drag and drop a .rm. It's a Real Audio file into that. And 9 times out of 10, it will convert it to an MP3 file for you. And when you heard that Outer Limits intro, I just did that this morning. That's why I was huffing and puffing, because these two computers, I don't have them networked because I just don't want any. I'm keeping this computer totally disconnected from any outside, any way possible. Anything can get in there, any hacker or any kind of network. No network traffic whatsoever. So I have to literally get a thumb drive. And if I, get a file from this main computer that I'm talking to you through, then I have to go and put it in there, plug it in there, and then, drag and drop. But I just did. So I was doing that. I was running around. Where's the thumb drive? Go to back of this computer, plug it in, come around, do this. It's getting close to the time I want to do this show. But that's how I got that clip and got it. And I managed to play it this morning. And I did a similar thing the other day when I put the I'm as mad as hell and not going to take it anymore, which I got a strike for. So it couldn't be played in North Korea, Syria, Iran, and some other place. It was blocked in those in like 4 countries, four so-called enemy or type of countries, axis of evil or something. Now, what was that about? So it couldn't have been about I'm as mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. Or is it something that, or something more weird? It's just weird. And it happened once before on some other thing that I played. So I don't think it had anything to do with that thing. I think they were just using that as an example. So something I must have said in the show, they didn't want to give the idea to, well, I mean, I don't release anything that's, not public knowledge. I mean, who cares? And besides, this show isn't targeted to anyone in those countries. This is basically targeted for the former Western civilization and the former United States, which is, now has irreconcilable differences. And it's not coming back. All right. We live in a corporatocracy. We have for years. It's all about finance. Politicians are marionettes. So I broke this phone, got it fixed eventually, got my credit card was, the money was put back in my credit card, but I think they still charged me something. which is like, they nickel and dime. No, they don't nickel and dime you. They $100 and $1,000 you to death today. It's insane. And that's why I intentionally have become, I explain to people, and they're very confused when I say this. I intentionally live below the poverty line. I do. My mortgage, taxes, and insurance are only $200 a month where I live. And, I showed you that thing. I don't know how observant people are, but if you saw in the background, the houses across the street, particularly the one house across the street, isn't the nicest looking place. It's empty, actually. There was a guy in there. He was like an older guy who had his own refrigerator repair or air conditioning, whatever, repair business. Had a truck and stuff. But they hauled him away in an ambulance one time or something. I think I don't know. I don't know if he's dead or in a nursing home or something like that. But I wanted him to do work in my place, but he was like this tall dude. He came when I first moved here, and he goes, I can't do the work down in your basement. Because my basement, you have to like bend down. Which is really weird because the previous owner of this place, who was a barber, the room I'm in now was a barber shop. Imagine that. And but he was a tall guy, and he was like a DIYer, hobbyist inventor type of guy, gadgety type of guy. But he used to have like his workshop or something down in that basement. But they said I never met him because he died years ago. But because this house sat empty for a couple of years. I think that's how I got it so cheap. But I've talked to people. There's a hardware store across the street and stuff, different people about it. They said, oh, he was a very tall man, like over 6 feet or something. And I'm like 5'11", And so, when I used to wear cowboy boots, I was like 6 feet, But I got to bend down. Like, it's like I have to bend down to go in that basement. And I've already bashed my head off of a beam or pipe hanging down or something. I don't go down there very often. I go down there like once every 3 months or so and like spray like preventative bug spray, that stuff, just around there to keep any critters, especially with what they're doing with the sewers now, all this vibration and stuff. I don't want them like scaring whatever the funk of 40,000 years from that Michael Jackson song. It was Vincent Price who said that. The funk of 40,000 years. That's what my basement is like. I don't like going down there. But I don't know exactly how I got on that tangent. So let's get back to it. So let's get started into it. So we're almost an hour into the show. And you heard my virtual cage song. And that's what this is. I mean, we're locked in a virtual cage. I mean, even right now, you look at the screen, however you're viewing this. If it's being viewed on a laptop, if you're like me, you watch YouTube on your TV I watch it through like a Fire Stick, Amazon Fire Stick. I used to watch it through like Apple TV. There's Roku boxes and any number of things. Oh, the smart TVs now. My TVs are older, but they're bigger screen, but they're not smart TVs. So now the TVs come with the apps, or you can add an app just to your TV, so you don't even need to have some kind of thing. But I'm in this virtual cage. So like, I'm trapped in here, right? In this box. Let me out of here, you know? Let me out of here. And, you know, and we all, you know, this becomes you or it becomes you. You see what I'm saying? So like, it usually doesn't take long to charge a thing. So let's like take this and let's just do a little test mid show here. So I'm going to unplug this. All right. And like I say, this is just a standard USB cord. All right. And now I'm going to hit the startup. And let's see. It's starting. Okay. And it's showing that, and it's different. There's different things here. There's a clock. There's your photos, music. I put a headphone in it and I run the wire up my sleeve in the wintertime and just listen to music. But let's, for the sake of it, show you what happened. You see that? It's like a watch. There. And obviously the time, because the battery died, it's saying it's like 5 to 4, you know, on January 1. But anyway, so I'm going to put this on my wrist. This is just a neat thing. This is my theory on how the Apple Watch came about. Many years, way before the Apple Watch came out. Okay, years before the Apple Watch came out. There was this thing that's in the middle called the iPod Mini. Okay. And somebody came up with the idea of figured out that they can attach a wristband to this. Because the iPod Mini just had a clip on it. And the idea was if you would go running, because they had a thing with Nike and stuff, you know, so you could like, you know, check your, count your steps and all that kind of nonsense. You know, people are into that garbage. And so somebody invented these things. And I found one of these on like eBay. And I knew I had one of these old iPods from, you know, the early 2000s, right? Look how dry my skin is. It's like, it's so dry in this house. Jeez. But anyway, let me just, you know, it worked. I just charged it. This thing had been sitting for a long time. And I could play music on it and, you know, or check the time or do any kind of, you know, any number of things. Like on my music thing, I don't know if I could get close enough where you can read it or not. It's so weird, the way the camera see the light. But anyway, I just push it. The charge on it is showing like it's about 70 to 80% charged. And I did that. I charged this with just standard USB charger on this device while you watched. And this thing was on right now. This light has been running for an hour. So it's been on before the show started. And I was charging this phone or this iPod. I started at 92% on this and I'm at 89%. And and the light's still on. You know, and I see these guys, they do these unboxing and they make, you know, these YouTube millionaire type of people, and they do all this, but they never do anything. That's why there's long form shows. I'm demonstrating, you know, because they say, well, here, we'll do this and then we'll come back. And it's like, maybe they're coming back. Maybe, maybe they did. Maybe they plugged it in the wall. Maybe they didn't. It's not that I distrust them necessarily, but what I'm saying with you is that light, okay, is plugged into here. Watch. I take it out, right? Light goes off. So I'm showing you in real time, and that the power is not going, and that this thing has the power. So if imagine, okay, you're in a storm, it's winter. A tree knocks down the power in your neighborhood, or the power goes out in the whole city, or there's a nearby hurricane or tornado or something weird like that, or just some car hits a pole. That happens a lot of times. And sometimes these transformers, they don't have these things off the shelf, and it's like takes them 8 hours to get the power back up, or something. I was, like I said this in a previous show, one time I was 24 hours. Well, these things, most of the things like lights and laptops, even computers, and like your whatever your internet device, how your internet comes into your house is, whatever your Wi-Fi, you could use your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot too, so you can have that plugged in and be charging that as well. But, if you have a router, or if your router's part of your internet box that you get, there's different ways different companies deal with this stuff. In my case, I have two. I have an internet box, and then I have a Wi-Fi router that I bought because I wanted it to reach way into the back of my yard. So I actually have my internet router upstairs towards the back of the house, so I could get the closest to get a signal far, because my house is thin, and my property is a thin property, but I have a longer yard. Okay. And that's where I hang out there. That's, I have like a little patio hangout lounge chair, cop a tan, whenever the sun's out. And I have a solar panel on my mini greenhouse, just a little bit bigger than a phone booth. But that's all you really need. A couple shelves in there, you can grow a lot of food, do seed starts and stuff like that. But so the power's out. And this isn't strictly about this. I mean, you can see my greatsolarstuff.com. That's where I have some of these things listed. But the idea is that you don't have to be down, and offline or out of touch with reality. If you just had this NOAA radio, right, that's solar chargeable or crank chargeable, and also will charge your cell phone, and emergency charge your cell phone. And this thing, you could have like lighting on in the house, and you can use one of these things. Where is it? Here it is. I don't know if I showed this before. You could plug one of these into there and have multiple things plugged into it. I've done that before too, in an earlier test of this. I covered my codex title. So the virtual cage becomes you means, and the virtual cage becomes you. So some people, the girl on TikTok, right? These people on Instagrams, these influencers, right? To them, the virtual cage becomes them, like it's very becoming of you. You see what I mean? But, in any English language is pretty funny like that. We have so many words that could be used, that mean like three different things, right? Depending on the context, which is weird. as opposed to other languages have word, like German language has a word, you know, one word means like explains a whole entire thing, right? But you know, the English language isn't like that. Or the virtual cage becomes you, right? So, and that's, you know, and that's the world we live in, and that kind of defines where we are right now. So it's these people that they live in the virtual world and it becomes them, and you know, they like it, right? That's their world. That's where they live. You know, that's what they want. It's becoming, you know. And then there's people like me and like my song, you know, virtual world, virtual cage, you know, where
My first thought was that I was free.
And the idea is that, no, I don't want the virtual cage to become, you know, me, to live in that virtual cage. And that's what this is, a virtual cage, you know, and that's what this is here. It's a virtual cage. Like, let me out of here. I'm caught in this thing, this, you know, this space, right? In this TV. Let me out of here, right? It's a virtual cage. You know, and so as a tool, it's fine, you know, and I'm using it now as a tool, and I'm using this other thing over here as a tool. Okay, that's okay. You know, that's fine. You know, technology. But when I say these tools, they haven't really advanced, and those who are in charge, so to speak, at these big tech companies of the corporatocracy now that are basically running things and telling us what we can and cannot say and do. These people that are triggered by words, right? He said such and such, you know, like that thing I got that, you know, wasn't a full strike, but it was a warning. And if you do it again, you're going to get a strike and then you won't be able, then we're going to put you in YouTube jail for 1 week, meaning you can't post or do a live broadcast for a week if you get a strike. And if you get 3 strikes, you're out and you're banned and you can't ever be on YouTube. You can't broadcast anymore. You kicked off TV. You're kicked out of the virtual cage, right? So that's why, you know, this video is also playing on Locals. And I recommend anyone to check that out. Locals.com. If you want to find me, it's Tony Caravan. Oh, sorry for that reaction. But I just like put an ice cube in my thing, spilled it towards my phone, on my phone. And luckily, I do have some napkins here. So see if we can avert this tragedy. And there's a... See, this is live TV. And I love it. It's beautiful. It didn't get on my keyboard, but it did get on my pencil case. You don't see those things anymore. I bought this at IKEA, I don't know, 30 years ago. But I got to double check my phone that it didn't get wet because it landed on my phone. Just a spot. So we'll take one of these ancient, I used to collect weird things like this. Look at this. This is an old coaster from Pepsi-Cola, right? Pepsi-Cola, not Pepsi. Look at the old logo. This thing's gone through the ringer. You witnessed a nightmare on air live, and we averted a nightmare, really. Where was I? No, so yeah, so they would, in other words, I lose my ability to communicate. So I was talking about locals. I'm Tony Caravan Live.locals.com. Now, Locals isn't a YouTube type of platform, though it does allow videos, but it's limited, I guess, well, just because they're not Alphabet, and but it's a nice community site, and I'm just getting involved with it now. I've posted some stuff on there. They allow you to post a video from YouTube, and it plays right in place, which is kind of nice. Or you can click and play it on YouTube. But you can upload short videos. And I don't know everything. Like I was explaining before, and I don't think Dave Rubin's watching my video necessarily, but maybe somebody from within their place is. It's still a little cumbersome, there's a lot of details to it, and so it's not just, it took me a while, it took me like a day, not a whole day, but I mean, the first day getting all my information in, for, I don't know, to spend an hour or so. And then and then filling in other gaps the next day. And I'm not sure how, like, there's certain levels where you can upload a video up to an hour, upload a half-hour video, or maybe a minute or two video. I think the minute or two videos they don't really care about, I think. But I think if you want a 30-minute video or an hour video, you have to be like at, there might be some charge, I don't know, level of membership or something like that. Whatever the case may be, if you've ever watched the Rubin Report, you know that it's a more diverse and open platform than YouTube is. And so that's why I've joined, right? And I like it. But I still haven't been able to explore the depths of it. Like, cuz as far as finding other community members. And I don't know if I think other people may be having that same problem. Because if you go to the main thing, you'll see people like Tulsi Gabbard, or you'll see certain people. So it's easy to find some of these bigger names and follow them if you want. And it's the type of site where you can, it's like, I guess it was originally created because of, as an alternative to Patreon, a way for people to finance themselves. Right. And, it would be nice if some people wanted to become a member of my community. I have, the Tony Caravan Live community there page. And you can, if you can afford it, but my content for the most part is, I'm just making it available right now for free, though I may do some, like I was explaining before, when you do production videos, heavy production videos, that it sometimes takes hours and hours to do it the way I do it. Because when I'm doing stuff live and I'm just going with,
I think all three of you popped your stoppers.
I have a setup here in order to do it live. But if I want to flash up some kind of image here, picture in picture, or do something of that sort, you can't do that live unless you have some other third-party software, in which case it's still not, it's still live, so it's not produced. So you don't have that ability to edit it, streamline it, and do add things after the fact and all that stuff. And there's a time and place for those kind of produced videos, and I've made those. Like if you go back, there's some videos where I have, images, dozens of images, plopped up on the screen, where I'm trying to make a statement about charts. And this gets back to, so if I were to do something like that again, and I will do that maybe from time to time, that will be on a premium viewed video for like a members only video. And I just have to figure out how I'm going to do that. But for the most part, if you're watching me, become a member of my channel or community, they call it, because you'll always find content here. All right. No matter what. And I'll always be giving my thoughts. And when I start writing my next book, I was talking about that creative impulse that I have. At one point it was like you've heard these beat poetry tracks, and I have CDs out, which I think I have here. Grab these. I go through this often, but I have the essential beat poetry of Tony Caravan, say, CD, which unfortunately is only available as a CD on Amazon because they changed some kind of weird thing, their media on demand service. And then I have this one, which was my first CD, and I say this all the time. And the reason I say it all the time is there's a couple of good tracks on here, particularly the one that's EYKIW, which is the abbreviation for what you see up here, Everything You Know Is Wrong. That was one of the first songs that I produced, wrote, recorded, and produced myself. And this CD is, this, like my books, this is self-produced. I mastered this, and then it's fully, you see the barcode on it. I mean, this is the real thing. It's out there. There's a thing called the worst Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa song ever written or sung. That's like a seasonal classic, and that gets airplay every year. So that's a good one. And there's a song, Everything Broken. It's kind of maybe okay. But the other stuff isn't that good, And unfortunately on Spotify, because that was my first CD and the other one's not digital, it's just a CD. Even though the songs on that are available, on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Music, wherever music is played, really. So you could listen to it for free, or you could buy the track if you wanted to support it. But I mean, I don't really care. That the older CD shows up first. So if you listen, you see a song like Gullible, there's something, on there, or Trying to Catch the Wind. I don't know, they're just not, they're not that good, as my newer stuff. My newer stuff is like real beat poetry, like, like stuff like this.
There's a war being fought.
Or this.
There are the little things.
It's just a lot cooler. That those three tracks particularly are like very, very beat poetry type. Oh, by the way, I guess I forgot to say good morning. And then there are other songs that, are just all, I mean, it goes from everything. I mean, I have some songs that are like have that, fast rate beat, that's almost like a club beat, Then there's other ones that are just like rock with like lead guitar solos and stuff. And when I record all my music, the thing about it is, it's just like why I like live is that, I mean, this show's becoming more about Tony Caravan, but it's really just, it's about the virtual cage that we live in, if you think about it. Because I mean, I'm in the virtual cage. I'm caught. I'm trapped here. I'm a victim of it. But what I was trying to say is that I like live personally. I like flow of consciousness in my book, and my next book's going to be all flow of consciousness, not just like this one is half. Codex. Well, if you can, well, let's see if we can flip around. All right. Codex. See what I'm talking about right there? That's available on Amazon. Get the print version. It's on it's on Apple, it's iBook or Apple Books and Kindle and all that. But I mean, don't you want the book to hold in your hand? Put on your bookshelf. But with my music, what I do is, even though I use a multi-track digital recorder, I'll write the lyric. I'll post the lyric on my screen, in like a text program. Push it to the side, and I'll have my multi-track program opened on this side, say. And then I will play a rhythm track, or a bass line, or a drum, something like, I'll do this thing, or this. And I'll just do that for whatever the length, like that song is 2 minutes and 44 seconds. But I won't know that, how long it's going to be. But I could judge by the length of lyrics, having done about 50 songs, that I could tell if this song is going to be, around 3 minutes or less, or if it's going to go longer. I have some songs that are like 5 or 6 minutes long. You just tell by the length of your lyrics, you get used to it. So I'll do that, boom, 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 boom. And I'll just run through that track and record that for about 3 minutes or so. And then I'll drape the guitar on, which this thing has this like, well, something's got to fly. This thing has a ridiculous flashlight on it. But as you can see, let me just do this. But I don't cause any damage, but you can see I got to see the guitar. Look how bright this thing is. It's nuts. Yeah, this thing's great.
Only pitchy light rain along the Mason-Dixon line. Scattered showers will pop up in the afternoon over the
Mason-Dixon line. So, and then I'll play a guitar rhythm. And then if it calls for it, then I'll just play those tracks, 2 tracks back, the bass and the rhythm, maybe add a drum to it. And then I'll add like a lead solo or something else going on there. I have a keyboard below me here on my, I have a slide out thing, which I really can't show you necessarily. I mean, I don't know if I can maybe reflect with this magic mirror down here. Let's see if we can do that. It's hard to. We were reflecting over there. So are we able to reflect to the keyboard? See if we could see a hand here somewhere. No, can't do it. Take my word. I've got like a MIDI keyboard. Some people have a pull-out drawer for their keyboard, their regular keyboard. Well, I like my keyboard high and slanted. It's like ergonomically, it works better for me. So I have a slide out thing for people who like these low keyboard. So sometimes I'll just add a keyboard thing. I mean, I'm a basic musician, so I could play guitar, basic keyboard. I'm not going to be playing some classical music. I wish I would have had classical music lessons when I was a kid, but I had some guitar lessons, but not many. My cousin taught me. Went through the Mel Bay books. But anyway, I'll lay those tracks down live, one over the other. Then once I have that, I've got the headphones on and the microphone and the lyrics on the screen, and then I'll just do it. And unless it's a royal screw up, like I, get a line totally wrong, right? But I've already gotten like slightly wrong. That's it. And then I'll just mix it down, register it with BMI and go through the process of go through this distributor that I use, and the song's out. In other words, I may have written the lyric, the poem, it's beat poetry, in the morning, opened up my sound program that I use, laid down the tracks just in order, didn't even go back and fix things, may have messed up on something slightly, and and then it's out there. And there's something like true and honest. That's like my form of creative expression that I like. And that's why I do. And that's it. And it's the same with whether it's a free flow of consciousness in my books. I mean, I edit my books the best I can, but I don't have an outside editor. I've given it to some other people to go over from time to time, and they've missed a couple things. So I said, well, the heck with that. So sometimes in my books, there's like a, something that, first you run spell check, but then you read it a couple of times yourself and you try to proofread the best you can and stuff like that. But, sometimes there's a there, THEIR, instead of a THERE. And it's just it's kind of it's a computer age digital error. It's like people when I used to do Twitter, which I don't do now. I mentioned this the other day, but it probably was yesterday's video that I took down. Like people go, oh, he did, he has, it's an it's, use the possessive of it's instead of it's, there's a contraction or something. Hey, look, it just came up that way. That's like the spell check or whatever, how these programs work. So what? I missed it. That's not a, that's not a fair criticism of what my statement was. And it's the same with a book or a song, so what? Oh, that guitar lick isn't perfect. And some musicologist is going to say, oh, this isn't good or something. It's like, they're good. I listen to them. In fact, today, excuse me, which it's looking more and more like I will have a happy hour a little bit later today. Part of even though I own like 10,000 songs of all kinds of, music, depending on the mood I'm in. Sometimes if I'll sit at my bar and have a happy hour, sometimes, if somebody comes by, but whether they do or don't, it's like, I don't mind doing that. I like sometimes just to like unwind, have a couple of beers and listen to some music. And I've nice speaker sound system set up in there. Listen to loud music, right? I've got some candles lit. I'll smoke a cigar. I don't smoke, anymore. But if I'm having a couple of beers, I'll smoke a cigar, listen to some loud music. I've got my own house. Enjoy the environment that I have, right? But I'll put some of my own songs within that mix because I like my own music. just like I tell you, when this video's over, I'll watch it unless YouTube like takes it down for some reason, you know. And I read my own books. I used to do an awful lot of essays throughout the internet, and I was even on There was some sites where I was writing my poetry, and I was getting, some accolades, and a lot of people, I was getting picked, being the pick, of the day or the week or whatever. But I just moved. It's like this this is what I'm trying to say. It's this creative impulse. So to pull this show together, in this idea of, first you have eyes without a face, which is the mannequin head here. Everything is wrong, and like my other shirt, and signature phrase, you don't know what you don't know. Think about that. You don't know what you don't know. And I can't get into this kind of thing because they believe that they have something about medical misinformation, even though no one at Alphabet knows what they're talking about, right? And there's so much information out there right now that's contradictory. And this is where I'm walking on eggshells saying this, because I like this video so far. I think it's going pretty good. And I think I'm going to tie it together shortly, and it'll make a lot of sense too. But this is where you're walking on eggshells, because you want to talk about what's really going on right at this moment, but you can't. Even though it's matter of factual information, from sources, like, even if, you can't report what appeared on the CDC's website, right? Or something that, the Israelis have put out, a report, statistics that they've released, or the WHO, or the NIH, right? Or even the FDA. There's a lot happened in the past couple of weeks that are very contradictory. Or you can't talk about Texas, really. Like, how that's like, they try to treat it like an anomaly, but what they've done there, right? And so I'm walking on eggshells. Now, I've said nothing. If they dare try to give me a warning or a strike on that, you're witness. But it doesn't matter that you're witness to it, because they're in charge of the flow and control of information. And even though I haven't mentioned anything, and they honestly don't know what I'm talking about, I could be talking about colas, the new diet colas, right? And soft drink sales in Texas, and the latest cola approved by the Food and Drug Administration, for all they know, right? But everything is wrong. You don't know what you don't know. Okay? And this virtual cage that I'm trapped in, right? It's restricting me inside here. I can't get out. Right? My headphones want to fall off. What's that? What's up with that? And why do some people get away with basically reporting it, but other people can't? What's up with that? So it's like, the more of a truth sayer you are, so to speak, the more likely you are to be blocked or have some sort of, or they have some kind of issue with you. Because I don't think they like this idea. Like they don't know how. My conclusion is because I'm puzzled. I'm quite frankly, I'm puzzled. I'm annoyed. I don't really get angry, at things like that. I mean, you can see the video right after that. I got that notice that you can tell that day I just wasn't. It wasn't as fun loving as my normal videos. But generally speaking, I'm not. I'm in. This is this.
The station for more fun in the sun. Fun radio.
Fun radio. Whatever you want to call it. It's fun radio. And so, who wants to walk on eggshells? And even if I were, to, say something that goes against the powers that be, right? The corporatocracy's official press release, even though it's contradicted by so many experts and professionals around the world. All right. It would still be just nothing more than an op-ed piece you would find in a newspaper or some guest on some television show from, or radio program that was just came on as a guest and has an opinion. And the main news reader, host, MC, whatever the heck they are, would argue with them or something. I mean, granted, they do sometimes cut off their guests, but it's the concept of op-ed or an opinion piece. And so what gives people the right now, whatever they hide under, oh, it's a terms of service, it's a private company. What is that? No, it's not. It's like, in other words, if you're profiting on, if you provide a service, okay, and you restrict you violate a constitutional right, like free speech. All right. You don't hide under the idea of saying that you're a private company. That's the same as like, that would be like two guys from, Citicorp or whatever they're called now, Citigroup, Citicorp, whatever it is, going over to, across the street to some restaurant and robbing the place or smashing the windows and using as their defense, well, we're a private company, so we don't have to abide by the law of the land. Right? It's just private. We're a private company. We don't have to follow the Constitution. Right? The First Amendment doesn't mean anything to us. We're a private company. So I try to tell people it's a corporatocracy. People think there hasn't been, some people think elections matter or like, or people get screwed in elections and stuff. Man, this has been this has been a corporatocracy for decades. This is corporate capitalism. This is a corporate government, it's the politicians are the morons because they actually think somebody take offense when I use the word moron, but I mean, that actually believe that they're in control of something. Even when they attempt to pass a law or a bill or a amendment or whatever it is, amendment to a bill or something, if the corporatocracy doesn't like it, it gets stricken. Right? I mean, the influence of lobbyists, which is basically the corporatocracy, they are the puppeteers and the politicians and the bureaucrats are marionettes. Nothing gets done if it's not, so that the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset is all about the reset of capitalism. Particular the US, Western civilization. But US is the one they're gunning for. Because it's, there was just too many freedoms. So, you have to mince your words and all these games that are played. It's just not right. I don't want to be out here pointing fingers and getting crazy and ranting about something, but I would like to let you know about a few things. And I guess those would be the things that I will put on Locals and create a video about. That'll be a member only type of thing. A place where I can actually talk about the truth, where you could bring the truth out. Because in effect, what they're trying to say is that the moment you speak the truth, we're going to give you a strike, or we're going to ban you or censor you. Because if someone is afraid of language or afraid of hearing an opinion, they have something to hide. I mean, I always bring up Occam's razor. Look at it from the most simplest, solution, right? The most obvious answer to the question. Why would someone be afraid of someone's given an opinion on something that is other people have, that is based on fact and that can be documented by multiple sources, right? And they would claim that you are guilty of medical misinformation or something. Says who? Says YouTube, right? Says who? Says YouTube, right? That's why I quit, posting on Twitter and replying on Twitter, and why I don't even use Facebook, other than to sometimes I'll post one or two of these. I'll post some of these videos just to get, the word out. But that's it. It's just basically you go to YouTube and it's like share. Okay, push the Twitter button, push the Facebook button, push the LinkedIn button, push the Tumblr button, right? The LinkedIn crowd, they don't get a lot of this stuff because, they're part of the corporatocracy. I have followers on LinkedIn that are, part of that. I mean, it's nothing wrong with it, but I mean, they're, so I don't often post too many copies of some of my stuff on there because, it's not their world. A lot of people just don't want to know the truth, or they don't really, they have lives, they have incomes, they have families, they have lifestyles. Then they don't want, they think that, someone speaking the truth about thing or exposing some kind of thing is, disruptive or something in some way. But the reality is it isn't. And I wish YouTube would get that through their mind. See, the point is, I could say all the things I want to say, right? But people don't care anyway, right? No matter what you want, the fact of the matter is you're basically speaking to preaching to the choir, no matter what, because that's today's society, right? That's why I say the former United States, and then we had that this country has irreconcilable differences. And everyone knows what I mean by that. Red state, blue state, right? Left, right, Republican, Democrat, whatever. It's like it doesn't matter, how much, how you reason, what kind of like factual, statistics, pa- papers, peer-reviewed journals, quotes from them you produce, right? Video evidence of some kind of thing, right? Or, encyclopedic, information, how many Johns Hopkins or Mayo Clinic, doctors you quote. None of that matters, because the fact of the matter is we have irreconcilable differences in this country, and people. So I have no pretension. That's why I say I'm not political anymore. I have no political leanings whatsoever anymore. I don't. It's like it's washed away from me. And I had strong opinions on both sides over the years. Like I've explained before, a couple of my earlier books, there's things in there that I totally disagree with. And then some of the things I was tweeting in the past couple of years or past year or so, I totally disagree with now, or I just don't feel that way. And that would be on both sides of the political spectrum. So that's all just been washed out of my consciousness. It's just not a part of me. It's not a part of who I am anymore. I realize the absurdity of it all, and the meaninglessness of it, and the waste of time, the exercise of futility that it was. So what I like to do is just talk, and give my opinion. And my opinion, I should be permitted to have my opinion. I mean, in a free society, for crying out loud. So if the virtual world becomes you are becoming, these TikTok, Instagram influencers. If that's your world, the daily, selfie, fine. If that's your world, do you like it? Go for it. I'm not trying to tell anybody to do anything, right? I'm in like a different, it's like it's almost an alternative universe. Is Tony Caravan Live, the morning show. This is for people who want to see the theater of the absurd, the surrealistic nightmare that we live in, the changes going on in society, that accept that the statement, the former United States, which the people would be like, oh my, what's he talking about? Or who understand when I say Western civilization has been collapsed for a while now. And there's people, well, we could do this, we could unite, and wake up to reality. It's a whole different world. And these people that live it's like the people who are resurrecting things that happened, in the 1960s and 70s, right? These protesters, which are exercises in futility also. It's like, look, been there, done that, watched the successes of those various movements, moved on, and we all lived happily ever after for several decades until somehow you guys are resurrecting some kind of crazy thing. Look, weird stuff happens. There are anomalies. When you have 320 or 330 million people in a country, you're going to have, individuals and events occur like little rampages and little things like that. It's just probability and statistics. That has nothing to do with the nature or the makeup of the populace, right? It's just that they're anomalies because there's that many people. going to happen, right? It's like lightning strikes, shark bites, stuff like that. Spider bites. Ick. But, and so I'm just trying to say, so if the virtual cage becomes you, right, is becoming, right? You know what I mean? In that like kind of glamour world, right? Which can also be the glamour as in the witchcraft and the magic mirror on the wall, the glamour. That's part of the thing that's, that the media is pulling over our eyes. It's the glamour from from the witchcraft concept, right? But otherwise, don't let the virtual world become you, or you become trapped within this virtual world. Okay? They're tools. They're good tools. When I play my music this afternoon, if I kick back and have a cigar and a couple of beers in my bar, right? I'm going to be using a computer and my iTunes, actually, and I'm going to be playing it, and I'll be using my little remote to skip a song, or up the volume, lower the volume, whatever. Yeah, technology's great, as a tool, but not as a lifestyle, not to become your everything. It's the same with these things that I, testing out live, right? Light's still on bright, 86%, charged an iPod and been, running a light, and just about done this show. It's been on for over 2 hours, and it holds that charge. And so I could imagine it. So you can have lighting and charge your cell phones and run your laptop for days and days and days. And if you have a solar panel, or if you have a car, you can up the charge on that, and you could last 2 weeks in a grid down, power out situation, right? See, because chances are, it's like, that's why I say about using, you could buy versions of these things that have multiple plugs, but you could also just put this in, because it's got a single thing, and make it a multiple plug thing, right? And the reason I tie all this into this virtual world, virtual cage, eyes without a face, all the insanity that's going on right now, abuses of First Amendment, right? Safe spaces, triggered, wrong speak. But back to this thing, because I think this is important, since today I am kind of ended up demonstrating this great solar stuff thing. It's like, chances are the hardwired internet or some cell tower, I mean, unless you're in like Tornado Alley, or a hurricane came through and just wiped out an entire city, which is a possibility. Chances are you'll be able to use your cell phone as a hotspot, or you just plug in your internet box, whatever it may be, and your laptop, and blammo, you're on. You see, because that wire still, that connection is still being made. And then there's this other stuff, like I showed this once before. I found this. See, it's like, what does it say, $7 or something up there? A little bit hard to read. A ceramic heater that's only 240 watts for $7. I think I picked that up at Walmart. You know. So, so you can huddle, I mean, in an emergency situation, you can huddle into a small room, a bathroom, closet. Sorry. This was that thing from YouTube, by the way, for somebody who doesn't know what I'm talking about. I just wanted to show it to you. The guy with the whistle, right? I mean, this childishness stuff, how your content, blah, blah, blah. But there's a couple of real clown lines on here. Our team reviewed your content. Unfortunately, we think it violates our medical misinformation policy. Like I say, what do you know? How many medical professionals were involved in that? YouTube is a safe place for all. Well, what's the threat, right? And then it goes on and then I can't even read this last one because it doesn't allow claims about the thing, the plague, or the thing they do here that contradict expert consensus from local authorities or the, World Health Organization. But the funny thing is, they're not even aware of what local health authorities and the World Health Organization have been saying. So you can't, so maybe just the fact that I mentioned that alone, that might be, I'm going to say you're walking on eggshells. But the idea is like, so what? Don't people have a right to an opinion? And the news that came out this week is pretty shocking, and contradictory about things like surfaces and all that stuff. You know what I'm talking about? The stuff out of Israel, the stuff about the one that was taken off the market and stuff like that. We should be able to discuss that as people, as human beings, as fellow citizens, but we can't. So we're trapped in this virtual cage, I guess, of our own choosing. And, and like I say, if 3 strikes you're out, okay, well, then maybe it'll be like when I dropped my song Virtual Cage. When I dropped my cell phone, I realized I was free of it. It's just like when I stopped Twitter, tweeting and replying, I realized that there was a certain freedom to it. And I never looked back. And when I cut the cord last October, November with television, though I hadn't been an avid viewer of it, there was a certain freedom, not only financial, and why I intentionally live just below the poverty line. I live just below the poverty line intentionally, but I own a house, have a garden, grow a lot of food for the better part of the year. I have this technology, can afford it, and have these accumulated things. And I get by just fine. The things you own end up owning you. That's that line from the Fight Club. And there's a way of, of surviving with just enough, to be happy, to realize that you're a conscious human being, consciousness detached from the bioelectric brain, and that you have 5 senses. And these senses experience the real world, not the virtual cage, not the virtual world, the real world. Forget about the VR device. Forget about, this and your little precious and being so attached to this as it's an appendage, or Elon Musk wanting to drill a hole in your head so you could be connected to AI so AI won't destroy you. All this fear mongering. I mean, it's crazy. I play this all the time.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
The reality is we're just cattle to them on their farm. That's what we are. And the virtual cage, that's it. We're cattle in a virtual cage, right? You just got to wake up to that idea and realize that, you are free, and that they could take you off these platforms. They could take me off these platforms, but you don't need, you don't need them. And there are all these things out there like this. And there are, guys like me telling you everything you know is wrong, and eyes without a face. That's what people are walking around like now. All you see are these eyes without a face, right? It literally is insane. It's insanity. It's mass insanity. That's what it is. It's mass insanity. And those of us who call this out for some reason, unlike, artists gone by in the past, not that I compare myself to a Salvador Dali or something like that. But I mean, if you try to, say, this is a surrealistic nightmare. This is the title of one of my books, by the way. That ban them, censor it, as if why are they so afraid? That's the thing. That's the real thing I don't get. I mean, I don't have any, there's like I have no viewers, unless they're hiding that. Because I do, the weird thing about it is I get comments from people that had to have seen the videos, right? But it'll show that I have like 2 views or no views or 1 view. I've had people call me, friends, and say, I liked your video, but it didn't show up. I don't understand. And they'll explain, and they'll talk to me about something I said inside the thing. So I know they watched it, right? And they said, no, I liked it. I even put the like on it. So I don't know what the game they're playing with me and why I'm such a threat, Just an honest guy, flow of consciousness, a guy who's written a bunch of books, bunch of songs, done almost 200 videos, was been responsible for many things, around, on a global, good things on a global thing, on a, global expeditions, global technologies, worked for good companies, did many things, mentored a lot of students. I don't get it, and it's just, it's puzzling. And like I say, it gets to the point where you feel like walking on eggshells is just something you just don't want to do anymore, and you don't feel comfortable. But that's the takeaway from today's show. It's either virtual world becomes you or virtual world becomes you. Using become, in both different ways. Either the glamour, like you're becoming, but you don't hear a lot of people use it in that respect, but you know what I mean. Or you're becoming, this person in a virtual cage, or you've already became a person in a virtual cage and you don't realize it. And the weirdest thing about it is these devices have only been around a little over a decade. And these social media platforms, have only been around a little over a decade. Particularly in mass, as far as being used by the masses, So how, that's another question that needs to be asked. How can something that didn't exist, less than 20 years ago be the center of your existence, your life? You can hear one of these house shaking vehicles come up. They're just about ready to start. Let's see if that's coming through. I hope you can hear that. That's what I have to put up with, though. These are people, contractors, that this is the third time they've tried to fix the infrastructure, the sewage system. They're putting down new pipes, digging up this road. It's the third time they've been doing this in about 5 years. And of course, they use that heavy equipment that requires carbon-based fuels. And that's the new big deal now, right? We've got to fix the infrastructure, and they're going to spend all this money doing it. But at the same time, they want to phase out of carbon-based fuels. Well, how the heck are you doing it? Thing that just drove by my house, because I'm in my front room of the picture window, is the size of a freaking house. All right. It requires so much diesel or whatever the heck they put in there that, it's unbelievable. So yeah, it's crazy. And like I said before, to use the word absurd, it's an overused word. So it's a meaningless word. At one time, if you said, man, it's absurd, people would get it. But now you say, oh, it's absurd what's going on. It's like it's a meaningless word. Everyone, everything's absurd, right? Everything, even surreal, I think is losing, the concept of saying, it's a surrealistic nightmare or whatever, is just not working. Where's that little line I had?
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
It's like people just don't get it and forget about
Toto,
it.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, we're definitely not in Kansas as far as that line is concerned.
Why are you telling us this?
Well, I'm telling you this because I just feel compelled to express myself. That's what people like me do. We express themselves. And we either write songs, we paint pictures, we write beat poetry, we do these broadcasts. I'm a graphic, artist. I may take up oil painting in a year. I create things. I write books. That's what we do. And, to silence the creative people, to me, is, there's something going on there, and it's not questioned enough by people. Why? What are they so afraid of? Right? Why is the truth so scary to these people? Why are people triggered by words? Right? What's going on? What kind of society? What's this safe place thing? Safe space, right? What is, I don't know. Is it random? Is it just like a handful of out of control oddballs that have somehow get media exposure and make the rounds that have done this? Or is this some kind of real concerted effort? Is this what these billionaires at Davos and the World Economic Forum, are they actually sitting there having meetings? Are there think tanks that are actually dealing with this stuff? Obviously these organizations with their terms of service have gone through and made these, pronouncements and put down these policies. So, it's It's very, very bizarre, which is another overused word because it lost its, if you would have said 20 years ago, man, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you something, man. This is so bizarre. You're not going to believe it. Right. If I would say 20 years ago, I would have said that. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something, man. It's so bizarre. It'll freak you out. Right. You would have been what? Well, what? But now this whole video was just something that was so bizarre that it should have freaked you out. And it didn't do anything of the kind, Well, anyway, thanks for watching. And as always, it's Hump Day, April 14th, middle of the month now. And I hope you have a great rest of the week. And if you're watching this on Locals, subscribe to my channel, spread the word, pass it. I like Locals. I think it's a good thing. I think I need this. We need that platform. We need the Locals platform. All right. It seems it's good people. We need a place where where decent people, can speak their mind and have opinions, without being censored or banned for things that are just would be normally something you would see on an op-ed or an opinion in a magazine or a guest on a normal, formerly mainstream TV show or something, because that's what's going on. Forget about the extremists, because I disapprove of all protests. I disapprove of all protests of any kind. I think all of that's an exercise in futility. And I disapprove of any kind of extremism, But I believe in the truth, and I believe in speaking your mind and freedom of speech. Because without that, and without social interaction, that's what I'm trying to say about this eyes without a face thing and stuff that's going on too. We're social beings. And granted, these platforms, like Locals, not like some of the others, can help people get together in a sense of community to talk. But, beyond that, we have to start getting together again. We really have to start getting together again. People need to start shaking hands, hugging, all right, and getting together again. And when that's going to happen and when they're going to allow that to happen, who knows? But it's like that's a discussion that needs to be had as well. Because we're, if we lose our humanity, what's left? Then these transhumanists, right? And these people pushing AI and all this and robotics and all this stuff, they win. In other words, they'll bring on the dystopian world that, that people like Elon Musk and stuff are so afraid of. In other words, they're ushering in their own demise instead of, they're on the wrong side of history in effect. And these billionaire corporations, these multi-billion-dollar corporations, instead of spending money to improve the quality of life for people, they're wasting it on policies to ban, new ways to censor, ban, and control and manipulate, right? And silence the truth. It's wacky, man. It's real wacky. But anyway. Good morning. Good morning. Hope that wasn't a downer for you. I didn't think it was. I'll be watching this back myself. I think this was this was in the grand tradition of Tony Caravan Live, the morning show. Support me if you want to. If you can't afford to, then don't. But if you've got a few extra bucks, get a shirt, get a mug, or get some of these things that I just demonstrated live. Unlike these unboxings that like try to tell you in 20 minutes, that light's been on for 2 hours. I charged an iPod while you saw. And we could be doing anything with that. So the truth is here. Take care. Cheers. Have a great day. Bye.